Imagine a world where every person speaks the same language, a world without barriers, without confusion, and without division. What could humanity achieve if words flowed freely between us, uniting us in purpose and understanding? Now imagine losing it all in an instant. The story of the Tower of Babel is not just an ancient tale, it's a warning. A cautionary reminder of what we gained, and what we lost, when humanity's greatest ambition collided with divine will. Long ago, in a time when the world was young, humanity stood as one. They spoke a single language, their words weaving a shared tapestry of dreams and ambitions. Across the earth, they roamed freely, their voices carrying songs of unity that echoed beneath the heavens. But their hearts, though united in speech, began to yearn for something greater, permanence. On the vast and fertile plains of Shinar, a decision was made that would change the course of history. The people gathered, their leaders addressing them with a vision so bold it seemed impossible to resist. "Come," they declared, "let us build a city, with a tower that reaches the heavens. Let us make a name for ourselves, so we will not be scattered across the face of the earth." It was more than a plan, it was a declaration of defiance. In their unity, they saw power. And in their power, they saw a chance to challenge the heavens themselves. The city would be their home, a sanctuary from the unknown. The tower would be their monument, a declaration of their greatness to the stars above. With their shared language binding them together, they began to build, brick by brick, stone by stone. As the tower rose higher, its meaning became as diverse as the people who built it. To some, it was a pathway to the divine, a stairway that might bridge the gap between man and God. To others, it was a fortress, a symbol of protection against the chaos of the unknown. Still others saw it as a testament to their ingenuity, a way to prove that humanity was capable of shaping its own destiny. Yet beneath their unity lay the quiet stirrings of pride. Was their goal truly to honor the heavens, or was it to prove their dominance over it? Were they seeking to draw closer to God, or to replace Him? The builders worked tirelessly, their shared language carrying commands, encouragements, and songs of triumph. Together, they believed, they could overcome anything. Together, they were unstoppable. Far above the plains of Shinar, the heavens watched. The story tells us that God descended to see the city and the tower that humanity had begun to build. "They are one people," the Lord said, "and they all have one language. This is only the beginning of what they will do. Nothing they propose will now be impossible for them." Some say these words reflect divine concern, a fear of what humanity might achieve without limits. Others see them as an acknowledgement of the incredible potential of unity. But there was no question that humanity's ambition was dangerous. The tower was not just a structure, it was a symbol of rebellion. A defiance of the natural order. And so, God made a decision that would shatter their unity forever. It began with confusion. Voices once harmonious became incomprehensible. Words, once shared, turned to gibberish. Commands were misunderstood, cooperation crumbled, and the songs of triumph dissolved into chaos. Brick by brick, the tower came to a halt. The unity that had driven humanity to build was gone, replaced by a cacophony of frustration and division. The people scattered, carrying with them new languages, new identities, and a new sense of separation. The Tower of Babel stood unfinished, abandoned, a monument not to humanity's greatness but to its limitations. The dream of unity had been shattered. But was the division a punishment or a gift? What did humanity truly lose when their language was divided, and what lessons remain for us today? In the wake of Babel's fall, the world changed forever. The once unified human race was scattered across the earth, their shared tongue splintered into countless languages. What had been a chorus of understanding became a cacophony of confusion. The plains of Shinar fell silent, and the unfinished tower stood as a ghostly reminder of humanity's shattered ambition. The scattering of humanity wasn't just physical, it was spiritual, cultural, and emotional. No longer bound by a single language, people drifted into separate tribes and nations, each with its own tongue, traditions, and ways of understanding the world. For the builders of Babel, the loss of shared language must have felt like exile. Words, once their greatest tool, had become walls, isolating them from one another. Misunderstandings bred distrust, and distrust bred division. What began as confusion soon hardened into separation, and what was once a united people became a fragmented world. Yet, this division was not without its consequences. As humanity scattered, so too did its creativity, its stories, and its innovations. New languages gave birth to new ways of thinking, and new cultures began to flourish. The world became a mosaic, rich with diversity but burdened by the weight of disconnection. The Tower of Babel became more than a historical event, it became a symbol. For some, it represented humanity's hubris, the pride that leads to downfall. For others, it was a testament to human potential, a reminder of what can be achieved when people work together. Religious traditions across cultures have interpreted the story in various ways. In the Judeo-Christian tradition, Babel is often seen as a cautionary tale about the dangers of defying God. But in other perspectives, it raises questions: was the scattering of languages a punishment, or was it a divine gift to protect humanity from its own ambition? To some, the tower's destruction symbolizes the limits of human pride. To others, it represents the birth of diversity, a necessary step in humanity's evolution. The division of language did more than create confusion, it created identity. Each new tongue became a vessel for stories, traditions, and ways of seeing the world. Over time, these languages shaped the cultures they belonged to, creating a tapestry of human expression that spanned continents and centuries. But with this diversity came conflict. The inability to understand one another led to wars, rivalries, and misunderstandings that echoed through history. The question lingered: was the loss of a universal language worth the beauty of diversity it created? The Tower of Babel is not just a story of the past, it is a warning for the future. Even today, in a world more connected than ever, language and cultural divides continue to shape our lives. The rise of globalization has brought people closer together, but it has also reignited tensions rooted in misunderstanding and mistrust. What would humanity gain if we could once again speak a single language? And what would we lose? Far above the plains of Shinar, the heavens gazed down upon the growing tower. Its shadow stretched long across the land, a symbol of humanity's ambition, and its defiance. The story of the Tower of Babel does not paint God as distant or unaware, it tells of a creator who came down to see the city and the tower the people were building. This descent, often seen as symbolic, represents divine intervention at a crucial moment in human history. But what was the motive? Why would God scatter humanity and confuse their language? Was it judgment? Protection? Or something far deeper than we often realize? The biblical account provides a rare glimpse into divine reasoning. If as one people speaking the same language they have begun to do this, then nothing they plan to do will be impossible for them. On the surface, this might seem like fear, an omnipotent God threatened by humanity's unity. But the truth lies elsewhere. God's concern was not with the tower itself, it was with the hearts of the builders. The people of Babel were not simply striving to build a city or a monument. They sought to touch the heavens, to make a name for themselves, to secure their destiny without reliance on their Creator. Their unity, while powerful, had become dangerous, not because of their potential, but because of the pride and rebellion driving it. God saw what they could not, that their ambition, unchecked, would lead to ruin. Their unity, beautiful as it was built on a foundation of arrogance and fear. If left to their own devices, they would destroy themselves. The scattering of humanity is often viewed as punishment, but could it have been an act of mercy? Imagine a parent separating two quarreling children before they harm each other. In some ways, God's intervention at Babel served a similar purpose. By dividing their language and scattering them across the earth, God forced humanity to confront its limitations, to rediscover humility, and to depend on Him rather than their own strength. The confusion of tongues was not the end of the story, it was a new beginning. In scattering the people, God planted the seeds of diversity, creativity, and growth. Each language became a new way to express His glory, each culture a reflection of His infinite nature. At the heart of Babel's ambition lay a deep fear, the fear of being forgotten. "Let us make a name for ourselves," the builders said, "so we will not be scattered." They wanted to leave a legacy, to ensure their place in history. But God's plan was not to erase them. Instead, He transformed their legacy. The tower stood as a reminder, not of their failure, but of the limits of human pride and the possibilities of divine purpose. Through their scattering, the builders of Babel became the ancestors of nations, the founders of languages, and the storytellers of humanity's most enduring myths. Why does God intervene at some moments and remain silent at others? The story of Babel invites us to wrestle with this question. Was the scattering of humanity an act of control, a way to limit human ambition? Or was it an act of liberation, a way to free humanity from its self-imposed constraints? The answers are not simple. Like so many stories in the Bible, Babel challenges us to see beyond the surface, to recognize that God's ways are not our ways. What seemed like punishment was, perhaps, a profound act of grace. When the dust settled over the plains of Shinar, the builders of Babel found themselves scattered across the earth, each carrying a new language. Their once unified voices, which had spoken the same words and shared the same dreams, were now a chorus of incomprehension. But what humanity lost in the immediacy of shared understanding, it gained in complexity, creativity, and identity. The echoes of Babel resound through history, shaping the diversity that defines our world today. With new languages came new ways of seeing the world. Words are not just tools for communication, they shape the way we think, feel, and interpret reality. Each new tongue birthed its own stories, myths, and traditions. What began as confusion became the foundation for cultures as rich and varied as the landscapes they inhabited. The builders of Babel, now separated by oceans, mountains, and deserts, became the architects of humanity's mosaic. Their languages gave rise to art, poetry, music, and philosophy, each unique and reflective of the lands they called home. Take, for instance, the oral traditions of the early nomadic tribes, who wove their experiences of the stars into constellations and myths. Or the great empires of Mesopotamia, Egypt, and the Indus Valley, where written scripts emerged to record laws, trade, and histories. The division of tongues didn't stifle humanity, it inspired it. Yet, the diversity born from Babel came at a cost. Misunderstanding led to mistrust, and mistrust gave rise to conflict. The inability to communicate bred isolation, and isolation hardened into division. Throughout history, language barriers have been at the root of wars and conquests. Empires expanded by imposing their languages on conquered peoples, while resistance movements clung fiercely to their native tongues as a form of defiance. The story of Babel reminds us that humanity's greatest strength, its ability to create and innovate, can also be its greatest weakness. When language divides rather than unites, it becomes a weapon, a means of asserting dominance rather than fostering connection. Despite the divisions sown at Babel, the human spirit has never stopped seeking connection. From ancient trade routes that bridged cultures to the modern era of globalization, humanity has found ways to transcend the barriers of language. The invention of writing systems like cuneiform and hieroglyphs marked the first steps toward bridging communication gaps. Later, trade languages like Aramaic, Latin, and Swahili emerged as common tongues, enabling dialogue between diverse peoples. Today, technology offers new solutions. Translation tools, global education, and the rise of English as a lingua franca have brought humanity closer to the dream of a universal language. Yet, even now, the legacy of Babel lingers. We are connected, but not always united, we understand one another, but not always deeply. What the story of Babel ultimately teaches us is that diversity is both a challenge and a gift. The scattering of languages may have created barriers, but it also opened doors to infinite expressions of human creativity. The Tower of Babel, though unfinished, still stands in a sense. It exists in the stories we tell, the art we create, and the ways we strive to overcome the divisions between us. Each culture, each language, is a brick in that tower, a testament to humanity's unyielding spirit. The story of Babel may have its roots in ancient times, but its lessons are more relevant today than ever. In the modern world, humanity has built its own version of the tower, not of bricks and mortar, but of technology, communication, and globalization. Like the builders of Shinar, we strive to connect, to reach higher, and to leave our mark on the heavens. But the question remains, are we repeating the mistakes of Babel, or have we learned from them? The rise of technology has brought humanity closer than ever before. The internet, satellites, and smartphones have created a global village where ideas flow across borders, and language barriers seem to fade. Translation software allows us to understand languages we've never studied, and social media connects us with people from the farthest corners of the earth. In many ways, this new era feels like a reversal of Babel. Where confusion once scattered us, technology now unites us. Yet, the unity we've achieved is fragile, and the divisions of Babel still linger. Even as we communicate more easily, misunderstandings persist. Cultural nuances get lost in translation, and the rapid spread of information often fuels conflict rather than connection. The tools that were meant to bridge divides sometimes deepen them, highlighting just how deeply rooted the legacy of Babel truly is. One of the most striking legacies of Babel in the modern age is the dominance of certain languages over others. English, for example, has become the lingua franca of business, science, and the internet. While this has created a shared platform for communication, it has also marginalized countless other languages. Across the globe, indigenous tongues are disappearing at an alarming rate, taking with them unique ways of understanding the world. Each lost language represents a piece of the human mosaic that can never be replaced. The Tower of Babel reminds us that diversity is not just a challenge, it is a treasure. As we strive for unity in a globalized world, we must also remember to preserve the voices that make us unique. The builders of Babel believed their tower would keep them together, but it ultimately drove them apart. In the modern world, the illusion of connection often hides deeper fractures. Social media, for instance, allows us to communicate instantly, but it often fosters division. Echo chambers, misinformation, and cultural misunderstandings create rifts that feel as insurmountable as the confusion of tongues at Babel. Despite our technological advances, true understanding remains elusive. The story of Babel challenges us to ask, are we truly united, or are we building a new tower destined to fall? The builders of Babel sought to make a name for themselves, to leave a legacy that would transcend time. In the modern era, we pursue the same goals through space exploration, artificial intelligence, and the quest to colonize new worlds. These ambitions echo the spirit of Babel, but they also invite reflection. Are we driven by curiosity and innovation, or by pride and a desire to conquer? The story of Babel reminds us that progress without purpose is hollow, and unity without humility is fragile. As we stand at the crossroads of technology and tradition, the lessons of Babel offer a guide. The scattering of humanity was not just a punishment, it was an invitation to embrace diversity, to learn from one another, and to find unity not in sameness, but in shared purpose. Our modern tower may rise higher than anything imagined in ancient Shinar, but its foundation must be stronger. If we build it on understanding, respect, and humility, we may avoid the fate of the builders of Babel. The Tower of Babel is more than a tale of ancient ambition, it is a mirror reflecting humanity's eternal struggle with pride, unity, and the divine. In every generation, Babel's story whispers a question to those who dare to listen: are we reaching for the heavens to honor God, or to defy Him? This chapter explores the spiritual themes woven into the fabric of the Tower of Babel, offering insights into humanity's relationship with God and the lessons that echo through time. At its core, the story of Babel is a cautionary tale about pride. The builders sought to make a name for themselves, driven by a desire for greatness and immortality. They wanted their tower to reach the heavens, a symbol of their strength and independence. But pride is a double-edged sword. While it can inspire us to achieve great things, it can also blind us to our limitations. In the story of Babel, humanity's ambition was not tempered by humility. They sought to elevate themselves without acknowledging the source of their gifts, the Creator who made them. This tension between ambition and humility is a theme that runs throughout Scripture. Proverbs warns, "Pride goes before destruction, and a haughty spirit before a fall." The builders of Babel exemplified this truth, their tower crumbling under the weight of their arrogance. Unity, like pride, is a complex force in the story of Babel. On the one hand, the builders' shared language and purpose allowed them to achieve incredible things. On the other, their unity became a tool for rebellion, a way to challenge God's authority. The scattering of humanity can be seen as a response to this rebellion, a divine act meant to prevent greater harm. But it is also a reminder that true unity must be rooted in humility and alignment with God's will. In the New Testament, the day of Pentecost offers a striking counterpoint to Babel. In that moment, the Holy Spirit descended upon the apostles, enabling them to speak in different tongues. But instead of confusion, this miracle brought understanding, as people from every nation heard the gospel in their own language. Pentecost reveals that unity is not about erasing differences, it is about finding harmony in diversity, a lesson the builders of Babel failed to grasp. The story of Babel raises profound questions about the relationship between God and human ambition. Was the scattering of humanity an act of judgment, or was it a protective measure, a way to guide humanity back to its proper place? Some see God's intervention as a limitation, a way to keep humanity in check. But others interpret it as an act of love, a reminder that true greatness comes not from defying God but from walking in partnership with Him. Throughout the Bible, God does not stifle ambition, He refines it. Moses led his people to freedom, David built a kingdom, and Solomon constructed a temple, not to glorify themselves, but to honor God. The story of Babel reminds us that ambition, when aligned with divine purpose, can lead to extraordinary things. The builders of Babel sought to reach the heavens, but their true desire was deeper, to find meaning in their existence. This longing is universal, woven into the fabric of human nature. We build towers, whether literal or metaphorical, not just to achieve, but to understand, to transcend, to connect with something greater than ourselves. The story of Babel challenges us to ask, what are we building, and why? Are we seeking to glorify ourselves, or to honor the Creator who made us? Perhaps the greatest spiritual lesson of Babel is the call to humility. Humanity's scattering was not the end of the story, it was an opportunity to grow, to learn, and to rediscover our dependence on God. The unfinished tower stands as a reminder that human strength alone is not enough. But it also points to the potential of what we can achieve when we align our ambitions with divine purpose. The story of the Tower of Babel might seem like an ancient tale, bound to the sands of time and the ruins of Shinar. Yet, its themes resonate powerfully in our modern age. Humanity's ambition to reach the heavens, its struggle with unity and division, and its relationship with the divine are as relevant today as they were thousands of years ago. In a world defined by technological progress and global interconnectedness, we are, in many ways, building a new tower. But what does Babel's legacy teach us about the challenges and opportunities of our time? The towering skyscrapers of our cities, the sprawling networks of the internet, and the grand ambitions of space exploration all echo the spirit of Babel. We are a species driven to innovate, to push boundaries, and to leave our mark on the universe. Consider the International Space Station, a symbol of human cooperation and technological mastery. It orbits above the Earth, a testament to what we can achieve when we work together. Yet, even as nations collaborate on such projects, rivalries persist, and divisions threaten progress. Similarly, the digital world promises connection, but it also breeds isolation and conflict. Social media platforms are modern-day towers, places where humanity comes together but often clashes in misunderstanding and division. The lesson of Babel is clear: ambition without purpose, unity without humility, and connection without understanding are doomed to fail. Despite the promises of globalization, the divisions sown at Babel remain. Language barriers still separate us, even as translation tools become more sophisticated. Cultural differences, though celebrated, often lead to misunderstanding and conflict. Wars, trade disputes, and ideological clashes remind us that humanity's unity is fragile. We may share the same planet, but we still struggle to share the same vision. The scattering of Babel was not just physical, it was spiritual, and its effects linger in our hearts. Yet, even in division, there is hope. The diversity born from Babel has enriched the human experience, giving rise to countless languages, traditions, and perspectives. The challenge is not to erase these differences, but to embrace them while finding common ground. Technology has brought humanity closer than ever before, but it has also revealed the limits of connection. The Internet, often hailed as the great equalizer, has become a battleground of ideas, misinformation, and cultural clashes. Like the builders of Babel, we often use our tools to assert dominance rather than foster understanding. The digital age offers the illusion of unity, but true connection requires more than shared platforms. It demands empathy, humility, and a willingness to listen. Babel's legacy reminds us that unity is not about uniformity, it is about harmony. It is not enough to speak the same language, we must also understand one another's hearts. The story of Babel does not end with despair. Though humanity was scattered, the dream of unity was never lost. It has re-emerged throughout history, in moments of cooperation, creativity, and compassion. The United Nations, for all its flaws, represents an attempt to bridge divides. The Universal Declaration of Human Rights, written in the wake of global conflict, is a modern echo of the shared purpose humanity once had. Even in the face of division, there are glimpses of what we can achieve together. The story of Babel challenges us to reclaim the dream of unity, not by erasing differences, but by finding strength in diversity. If humanity is to avoid the fate of Babel, we must build a new kind of tower, not one of bricks or technology, but of understanding. This tower would rise not through ambition alone, but through humility and shared purpose. It begins with recognizing that our differences are not obstacles, but opportunities to learn from one another. It grows through the cultivation of empathy, the breaking down of barriers, and the pursuit of a common good. The unfinished Tower of Babel stands as a reminder of what we lost, but it also points to what we can build anew. The Tower of Babel is more than a story of ambition, division, and divine intervention. It is a reflection of the human condition, a timeless exploration of our deepest desires, greatest strengths, and most dangerous weaknesses. Its lessons are woven into the fabric of our history, our culture, and even our daily lives. As we stand at the crossroads of an increasingly connected yet divided world, Babel's tale offers wisdom for the ages. What does it teach us about ourselves, and how can its lessons guide us toward a better future? At the heart of Babel is humanity's desire to leave a mark, to create something lasting. The builders wanted to make a name for themselves, to ensure that they would not be forgotten. This longing is universal. We all seek meaning, purpose, and the assurance that our lives matter. But the story challenges us to consider the foundations of our legacy. Are we building to glorify ourselves, or to contribute to something greater? True legacy is not measured by towers or monuments, but by the lives we touch and the good we leave behind. Babel also explores the delicate balance between unity and individuality. Humanity's shared language gave it unparalleled power, but it also bred arrogance and rebellion. The scattering of languages introduced diversity, but it also created division. This tension persists today. We long for connection, yet we value our uniqueness. We seek common ground, but we fear losing our identity. Babel reminds us that unity must be built on respect for diversity, and that individuality thrives when it contributes to the collective good. Pride is a central theme in Babel's story, a pride that blinds us to our limitations and distances us from God. The builders sought to reach the heavens, not to honor the divine, but to assert their own greatness. This pride is as relevant today as it was in ancient times. From the unchecked ambitions of leaders to the pursuit of technological dominance, humanity often struggles to balance progress with humility. Babel teaches us that greatness without humility is fragile. True progress comes not from defying the divine, but from aligning our ambitions with higher values. Though the scattering of languages is often seen as a curse, it also gave rise to one of humanity's greatest strengths, diversity. Each language, culture, and tradition adds to the richness of the human experience, offering new perspectives and insights. Babel challenges us to embrace this diversity, to see it not as a barrier but as a source of strength. In a world of many voices, understanding and harmony are possible, not through erasing differences, but through celebrating them. The unfinished Tower of Babel stands as a symbol of humanity's limitations, but it also offers hope. It reminds us that while our ambitions may falter, our capacity to rebuild is infinite. We are called to build a new kind of tower, not one of defiance, but of understanding. This tower rises not through bricks and mortar, but through empathy, cooperation, and shared purpose. It is a tower that honors diversity while seeking unity, a tower that reaches not to conquer the heavens, but to connect with the divine. Ultimately, the story of Babel is a mirror. It reveals our pride, our ambition, our fears, and our dreams. It challenges us to confront our flaws and to strive for something greater. As we navigate the complexities of our modern world, Babel reminds us that the path forward requires humility, wisdom, and a commitment to the common good. It is a story that calls us to look inward, to build bridges instead of walls, and to find unity in the beauty of our differences. The tower may have fallen, but its lessons remain. In its shadow, we are invited to ask, what are we building, and why? Thank you so much for watching this video and taking the time to explore this fascinating story with us. If you enjoyed this content, please don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Your support means the world to us, and God bless us all.